We are Kevin and Dave, and this is our 2010 Winnebago View, our tent for two. Join us this winter as we travel through the United States in our tent for two, enjoying the retired life. In this episode, we say goodbye to the tent for two that we've had for 3 years.
Homework is key. I don't the horn. Bye-bye, Mr.
Bye. So let me back up a bit. We've had this 2010 Winnebago View since the fall of 2020. And although we've enjoyed traveling in it and loved driving it,
the layout worked for weekend camping, but did not work for us on our extended stays and winter vacations in the south.
Originally, we had no plans to trade this unit in. However, after shopping around a bit and realizing the value the trade still had, we thought now was the time to do something. And so we looked around for units that might have the same small Sprinter chassis, but a much better layout. After several days of kicking tires and looking at all the possible layouts and brands, the first one we landed on was this 2020 Winnebago View B. The View had 2 twin beds at the back that converted into a king bed. It had most of the items we were looking for on our list. Full auto-leveling jacks, the new Mercedes chassis, and a nice open concept in the front to enjoy and relax. At the end of a long day, we were able to reach a deal with the dealership. However, at the last minute, over some issues around the Canadian trade and the work they wanted us to do for the trade, we ended up walking away. So, after some more searching on the internet, it's off to Fort Myers to look at a unit there. This unit in Fort Myers was a 2020 Winnebago Navion View 24D. It had everything we were looking for, including at the time the dual recliners. However, as we were looking at the unit and waiting to write up the offer, it was sold underneath us. So another one was lost. We ended up deciding to spend the night in Fort Myers, so we headed into the town and explore what there was to see and do on this beautiful day in Fort Myers. We ended up on the water enjoying a beautiful sunset, as well as the end of the Martin Luther King festival that was happening down there as well.
After a relaxing night in Fort Myers on the water, the next day we drove back to Tampa. We continued to do the paperwork required to bring our Canadian vehicle into the US. After the disappointment of losing the unit in Fort Myers, we talked a lot about the original Winnebago we had seen up in Ocala, and were considering going back up and purchasing that one. In the end, we decided to drive back up to Ocala, and we spent another day looking at units. We finally found what we thought was the perfect one. It was a 2022 Tiffin Wayfarer. We sat down with the salesman and worked out a deal. We even put a deposit on the unit. Everything was looking great to have this Tiffin. We even rang the gong once the deal was done.
Thank you so much.
We worked with TD Bank to arrange to have the money in Florida ready to purchase our unit. TD was great to work with. However, 3 days before we were supposed to pick up our tiffin, the salesperson called to say they could not complete the deal. They came up with this convoluted story of the unit not being roadworthy to sell. However, none of us believed their story. Well, we briefly considered purchasing the original view we had looked at there and had made arrangements for them to have it ready for the weekend. We again found out Optimum really wasn't up to their word. The unit was nowhere near ready when we looked at it on Friday, and the service person told us it would be at least another week to get parts to make it running. The lesson we learned, which we will pass on to everyone, is have nothing to do whatsoever with OptimumRV, one of the worst operations we have ever seen. In our last search, we found 2 units worth exploring, and 2 dealerships that seemed great to work with. In the end, we found the unit we really liked and worked a deal over the phone for a 2021 Winnebago View 24D. However, it was located in Dallas, Texas. While the dealer agreed to deliver it to Florida, we decided to make the trip, and off we were to Texas. Our intention was to head west anyway, so the stop in Dallas to pick up a motorhome made perfect sense. Along the route, we stopped at Buc-ee's. If you've never been to one, you need to check it out. Not only did Buc-ee's have the lowest price diesel we had seen, they also have a massive store attached to the gas station. It has all your needs for traveling, food, and some great brisket sandwiches. And of course, the famous wall of jerky. We stopped for the night in Biloxi and parked in one of the casino parking lots. Although it was a noisy night to sleep, we enjoyed a brief trip to the Hard Rock Cafe. We got up early to enjoy the sunrise, which turned out to be a great move as we found out when we were leaving that a marathon race was going to be starting soon and many of the roads would be closed. So we were able to get out of Biloxi before the road closures and marathon began. The next leg of the journey turned out to be the day of rain. It rained the entire day we were driving. It rained from Biloxi all the way until we got into Texas. We finally arrived at Travel Camp of Dallas, where we got our first look at the unit we were purchasing. It had the one must-have feature we wanted, which was hydraulic leveling jacks. We met up with Nick and the sales staff who we had talked to on the phone and finalized some paperwork in order to pick the unit up the next morning. On Tuesday morning, in the start of the freezing rain, we were able to put both units in the garage and move all of our belongings from our old view to the new one. With everything moved over, but not unpacked, we were ready to head back to the campground.
Off to new adventures. Thanks for using us at travel camp.
We were able to meet up with Matthew, a friend of ours from Canada who's now living near Dallas, for a quick lunch after picking up the new unit.
First time, slide's going down. Don't move. Gotta stay perfectly still.
Back to the campground to set up the unit for the first time. We got set up just in time. As it turned out, Dallas had a severe weather system for the next 3 days, and we were frozen in the campground while we waited for the ice to melt before we could continue on our journey. However, the 3 days were time well spent. As you can see, everything was just dumped in the new unit. So we were able to spend the next 3 days in the freezing rain inside our warm RV and unpack and organize as best as we could. Although we had more organizing and unpacking to do, we at least now had space to sit back and relax and enjoy the days we were stuck in Dallas. Once we were finally out of the ice, we decided to make a few stops as we headed out of Texas. Our first stop was South Fork Ranch, home of the famous TV series Dallas.